Nadu on Wednesday. The migratory birds are usually spotted in India from October to March during their breeding period. Take a look at these resplendent visuals and I shall see you next week.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
U.S Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to U.S Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowan.com.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Grace to Power with me, Molly Gambhir. A lot lined up for you on the show tonight. Here's a quick look at what's coming up. We are starting off with what's happening in Bangladesh. We tell you all about the situation on the ground, the protests, the demonstrations amid growing calls to hold elections by December. We tell you what all of this means for Muhammad Yunus as pressure piles up on him. We also focus on what's happening in the United States with Elon Musk leaving the Trump administration. What will things look like for the billionaire? Does he still have a role ahead? All this and more coming up for you. Fresh protests have erupted in Bangladesh as the country's political crisis lingers on. Former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's Bangladesh Nationalist Party has intensified pressure on the government there to hold elections. Thousands took to the streets of Dhaka on Wednesday as calls grow to hold elections by December. The rally was an apparent show of strength against the newly emerged student-led National Citizen Party, floated with Yunus's blessings. The NCP, born out of last year's deadly student-led protests, called Students Against Discrimination, insists that elections must wait until key reforms are completed. This days after UNICEF's marathon talks with leaders of at least 20 political parties.
We want our voting rights to be returned to us through a fair election as soon as possible. Today, 5 crore, 50 million young voters have not been able to vote for the past 17 years. So we want to tell this government, do not behave in a fascist manner. Return our voting rights to us without delay.
Eunice, who is currently on an official visit to Japan, has reiterated that elections would be held between December this year and June next year, depending on the extent of the reforms required. The interim government on Wednesday deployed paramilitary forces, including the Border Guard Bangladesh, BGB, and the Police Special Weapons and Tactics SWAT, as at least half a dozen demonstrations were held in Dhaka. It ranged from political rallies and counter-protests to worker strikes. In other protests, civil servants demonstrated at the main government ministry complex to protest against an order changing employment rules. An ordinance issued by the interim government on Sunday paved the way for the Ministry of Public Administration to dismiss public servants for misconduct without lengthy procedures, raising fears of arbitrary dismissals and sparking outrage across the bureaucracy. The government has said it will reconsider it. Till a couple of days ago, the tax authority workers were also demonstrating, angered over the overhaul of the body that would place it under the Finance Ministry's control. That escalated on Sunday when security forces surrounded the National Tax Headquarters before the government later backtracked. Shifting focus for now to China, it has urged the United States to fully cancel what it called wrongful unilateral tariff measures. Now, this comes a day after a U.S. federal court blocked most of President Donald Trump's sweeping levies from going into effect. The Trump administration has filed an appeal. In fact, the Chinese spokesperson termed President Trump's tariffs announced on what he called Liberation Day as a blow to global trade that also failed to resolve any of the country's own problems, saying all tariffs should now be revoked. This was in response to a panel of federal judges blocked some of Trump's most aggressive tariffs on China, Canada, Mexico, other U.S. trading partners.
Since the United States introduced unilateral tariff measures, it has not only failed to solve any of its own problems, but has also seriously undermined the international economic and trade order, seriously interfered with the production and operation of enterprises and the people's lives and consumption, harmed others and did not benefit itself, and also triggered a lot of opposition voices in the United States.
The U.S. Court of International Trade has ruled that Trump overstepped his powers under a 1977 economic emergency law. The law, meant to handle national economic crises, does not mention tariffs, but Trump used it to justify broad duties on foreign goods. The court made it clear the president cannot use that law to impose tariffs. It called his actions unauthorized. Businesses and state officials who filed the lawsuits said the tariffs sparked a trade war and caused serious financial damage. The White House spokesperson, meanwhile, slammed the ruling, saying unelected judges shouldn't decide how to handle a national emergency. The Justice Department has 10 days to begin halting the tariffs, but it's already moving to appeal the decision. Government lawyers argued that the president had full discretion to define and respond to economic emergencies. But the judges were not convinced, pointing out that whatever the strategy, it still has to follow the law. The case now sets up a potential showdown in the Supreme Court, one that could define the limits of presidential power in economic policy. And there are also other major cases running against Trump. Some of them are American Federation of Government Employees versus Trump, in which the plaintiffs are seeking to stop the administration's actions towards USAID, DNC versus Trump. In this case, Democrats have sued Trump over executive order that seeks to scale back authority of independent agencies, specifically the Federal Election Commission. And our correspondent Susan Teherani has been tracking all those developments, sending us this report. Take a look.
Following the recent federal court ruling invalidating most of President Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, the administration now has initiated an appeal to reinstate these measures. The court, for its part, said that President Trump overreached his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. In response, Trump officials are now eyeing a new legal route, Section 122 of the Trade Act, to reimpose short-term tariffs without a court approval. They are also preparing for a fresh Section 301 investigation to justify long-term duties as well. Now, despite the legal blow, the administration is indeed doubling down as expected, insisting that tariffs remain a central tenet of Trump's trade and national security strategy. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And staying on with the United States, American billionaire Elon Musk's role at the White House is coming to an end. In fact, his short stint has been mired in controversy, right from the decisions on firing federal employees and freezing aid to his contested appointment as an unelected official. In a post on X, the world's richest man thanked President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. He went on to say that the DOGE mission will only strengthen over time. And shortly after Musk's post, the White House confirmed his exit. The billionaire's administrative role comes to an end as the 130-day deadline for a special employee expires on Friday, May 30th. Towards the end of his tenure as a close advisor to the U.S. president, Musk criticized the budget bill that Trump championed and backed by calling it a big, beautiful bill. But the billionaire, who headed the Department of Government Efficiency, feeling otherwise. Musk said that he is disappointed by the amount of money earmarked in the spending bill and said it undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing. In fact, Musk said in a media interview, and I'm quoting here, "I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both," quote unquote. Musk's remarks are in stark contrast to his rally of support for all of the Trump administration's policy and agenda. As the U.S. tycoon walks out from his role at the White House, it remains unclear if there will still be some involvement in administrative discussions. According to the U.S. Department of Interior's website, a special government employee serves for a period of 130 days in 1 year, which means that there is a possibility for Musk to return to another such term next year, should Donald Trump want him to. Musk, remember, played a pivotal role in Trump's second presidency, right from being a key donor to Trump's campaign to being given the responsibility of a new department, DOGE, with the objective of slashing government spending. When murmurs first started just a few weeks ago of Musk's upcoming exit, several senior officials had said that the Tesla owner will not completely sidestep his role as an advisor to Trump, but rather his role will just be diluted as Musk looks to return to his primary role as a CEO and billionaire businessman. But beyond Musk's diminishing role in Trump's presidency, questions remain regarding the future of DOGE, the special department for cost cutting. While Musk emerged as its face and de facto leader, the White House in February had said that it is in fact Amy Gleason who is the acting administrator for DOGE. So far, the department has saved an estimated 175 billion US dollars. This, according to the official website, which also claims that all savings and payments across federal departments will be accounted for on the website in a bid to ensure transparency. And with us on the broadcast this minute is Christopher Hale, who is a political analyst with us from Chicago. Thanks very much for being here. It's been quite a journey as far as Musk's role is concerned. But what is your assessment of what could possibly lie ahead? Do we still see him playing the role of an advisor to Trump in a way, or still having a say in administrative decisions?
I don't think so. I think that this is a on paper separation, but in reality, a divorce. President Trump obviously relied on Elon Musk to help get elected. But Elon Musk has had a history of not being able to form long-term relationships in business and in his personal life as well. I think that Elon Musk is not loyal to President Trump or the MAGA movement writ large. I think he's more loyal to himself, his companies, and his brand. And so I imagine he said that he'd give $100 million to Republican causes over the next 2 years. I don't think that check's coming through. I don't think he'll participate as heavily as he promised. He saw a lot of blowback here in the United States for his companies, Tesla, most notably. He's had struggles at SpaceX. The stocks for all of his companies have struggled since he's gotten involved in the U.S. government. So I think that this is done. I think that the relationship between Elon Musk and Donald Trump is effectively done. I think that Doge itself, promising $1 trillion in savings. I don't know if that $175 billion number is correct. They made mistakes. Some argued that they've told falsehoods intentionally. So I think that Doge is possibly done, but I'm confident that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are not getting back together.
All right, so let's also then focus on what all of this means for Trump. What, according to you, has all of this made Trump look like as a leader, as a president, with a billionaire having so much involvement in his administration?
I think this is one of the best things that's happened to Trump in his 130 days in office is getting rid of Elon Musk. We find in our polling at my firm and across the United States that Elon Musk is significantly less popular than Donald Trump, the way he carries himself. We're looking at images right now. This man is not really connected with the median American or the MAGA movement as well. So I actually think that, unfortunately for my party, the exit of Elon Musk is actually a boon to President Trump. He needs to separate himself from the oligarchs, Elon Musk included. I think the more he can create separation is going to be better for him. That being said, I'll be intrigued. No one comes away from Donald Trump unscarred. Everything he touches, my party argues, becomes rotten. So I'll be intrigued to see if Elon Musk can actually recover himself. And also, too, will be interested to see if the White House lets him go in peace. Stephen Miller, the president's senior advisor, deputy chief of staff, had some scathing reviews of Elon Musk's claims of what's in the One Beautiful Big Bill. So I am intrigued to see if this is an amicable separation or if there'll still be more sparks flying. I think it's better for both parties for it to be amicable split. But if they start punching, we'll see what that does to President Trump's number and the MAGA coalition writ large.
Very interesting. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you for having me.
And let's shift focus for now to how Poland is preparing for an intense presidential runoff on June 1. Ahead of the critical vote on Sunday, in fact, analysts and political pundits are decoding what the country's voting pattern really is, and there seems to be a trend where political ideologies overlap with the voters' gender. According to the findings observed after the first round of elections on May 18, analysts say men and women have opposing political leanings, with men usually voting for the right and women being more left-leaning.
Young men tend to vote for Confederation, far-right party, at least in these presidential elections. In the first round, the candidate of this party received the most votes from young men. According to IPSOS data, it was over 47%. These men voted for Sławomir Mencen. On the other hand, women, here their distribution of votes is, women from Generation Z, it is more complex. They distribute these votes a little differently, but the left collects the majority of them.
Among women, Gen Z more specifically votes for left-leaning candidates. For the younger voters, discrimination, abortion rights, other kind of inclusive social messaging being more, in fact, being important electoral issues.
I hope that the future president will rise to the occasion and not be a person who discriminates. I hope they will give equal opportunities and be someone we can rely on, who will stand up for people rather than
The election on Sunday is a close race between the Warsaw mayor and pro-EU candidate and his rival, Trump supporter, non-partisan. According to popularity polls, meanwhile, the former is leading with 1 point over his right-wing rival. And tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets demanding restoration of Nepal's abolished monarchy. Waving flags and chanting slogans, pro-monarchy supporters called for the return of the former King Gyanendra Shah as the head of state. And just a few hundred meters away, a separate crowd gathered to mark Republic Day, celebrating Nepal's transition to a federal democratic republic in 2008. With fears of potential clashes, hundreds of riot police tried to keep the two groups apart, with authorities allowing them to hold their individual rallies at different times. In the last pro-monarchy protest on March 28, 2 people, including a television cameraman, were killed when protesters attacked buildings and set them on fire. While police fired bullets and tear gas on the protesters, several arrested protesters are still in jail. Massive street protests in 2006 had forced Gyanendra to step down as the king. 2 years later, the parliament voted to abolish the monarchy. Moving on for now, Nigeria's president marked his second year in office with a bold declaration that his economic reforms are working. But as his administration touts progress, international observers and critics at home warn of deepening challenges. Tinubu, who came to power in 2023, has pushed through sweeping economic changes. He has removed long-standing fuel and electricity subsidies and devalued the currency twice. In an anniversary address, in fact, the president said the country is now on a more sustainable path and pointed to a drop in the fiscal deficit from 5.4% of the GDP in 2023 to 3% this year. He also claimed inflation is beginning to ease. Meanwhile, Nigerians continue to grapple with the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. This comes as inflation remains stubbornly high, above 23%. And the value of the naira continues to tumble. On security, specifically, Tinubu said the government has made significant gains, especially in curbing banditry in the northwest. He claimed farmers are back in the fields and highways are safer. But a recent Amnesty International report paints a grimmer picture, saying over 10,000 people have been killed in armed attacks since Tinubu took office. But despite the mixed reviews, Tinubu's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, has thrown its support behind his bid for a second term in 2027. And for more on this, our correspondent getting us this report from Lagos. Take a look.
As the administration of President Bola Tinubu marks its second anniversary, there are mixed reactions from citizens over his scorecard. While the government maintains that its reforms are necessary for long-term recovery, that it had performed above average, citing incapacitation of cabals but benefiting from fuel subsidy, arbitrary foreign exchange rate, improved security, decline in food inflation, increased minimum wage, and so on. A tangible section of the citizens, especially opposition parties, have described the administration as a failure, grappling with surging inflation, high cost of living, unemployment, insecurity, and mounting national debt. Some others have condemned him for perceived regional favoritism. The president has, however, acknowledged that despite the bump in the cost of living, his administration has made undeniable progress. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olaniyi, WION The World is One.
French President Emmanuel Macron, who is currently on an official visit to Indonesia, has awarded his Indonesian counterpart with France's highest civilian honor. President Macron was formally received with a grand ceremonial welcome upon his arrival. Take a look at some of the key moments at that meeting. And thousands flooded the streets of Bogota and cities across Colombia, launching a 48-hour national strike in a powerful show of support for the president's ambitious labor reforms. In fact, the demonstrations by Petro's allies coming just a day after the Senate's Fourth Commission approved the controversial labor reform bill. The bill seeks to modernize Colombia's labor laws, bringing in measures to establish an 8-hour workday, improving pay for weekend and holiday shifts, and extending social protections to delivery app drivers and gig workers. In fact, the bill has sparked heated debate in the Congress. A similar proposal was rejected last year. Earlier this month, the Senate voted down a referendum on it. Demonstrators saying the discussions in the Congress are manipulated and only favor the elite people of the country.
The people must speak out about certain circumstances happening in Colombia today regarding what Congress intends to do, a manipulated labor reform that does not align with the needs of Colombian people and workers who demand a reform that truly benefits them. The reform being discussed in Congress is extremely reduced and manipulated to exclusively favor the country's powerful elite.
The Petro government is undeterred by the past setbacks and has vowed to keep pushing for reforms. They are calling on the citizens to take to the streets and make their voices heard. And now all eyes turn to the Senate plenary that must pass the bill before the June 20 deadline. If successful, the reform will still need to undergo reconciliation between the chambers before heading to the president's desk. And protests by Israelis turned into violent clashes with the police as thousands rallied outside the Likud party headquarters in Tel Aviv to demand Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his coalition government's resignation. Calls for the leader to step down have been growing louder as several hostages still remain in Gaza, 600 days after being taken captive by Hamas. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. We are taking a very short break. Stay with us.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called U.S Wellness Center. The U.S Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
India's unprecedented diplomatic outreach to the world. Multi-party delegations expose, isolate, counter Pakistan's terror machinery as a threat to peace-loving, development-oriented humanity. To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Wow, folks, we all know the story.
As makers announce the release date of The Devil Wears Prada 2, we take a look at all the upcoming remakes, reboots and sequels. Dive into the world of music with a never-seen-before auction. And find out why baby blue is the color of the year. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
This week on the West Asia Post. As Gaza faces one of the world's biggest war-induced hunger crisis, Benjamin Netanyahu's claim on Palestinian prisoners shocks the world. Also on the show, we talk about Erdogan's move to extend his stay at Turkey's presidential office and Kuwait's decision to strip thousands of citizenship status.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. Russia says that it is still waiting for Ukraine to say whether it will attend the peace talks in Istanbul on Monday after Kiev demands Moscow to send its peace terms before agreeing for the meeting. The Israeli government approves 22 new Jewish settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories of the West Bank, its finance minister said on Thursday. a move that is going to deepen the divisions with some allies who have threatened